All right. Well, welcome to the show. I've been starting these with asking people their why for competing in HYROX, and I know you don't just do HYROX. So your why for like everything that you do, is there a like big meaning behind it?
I've heard you ask this question a lot, and I thought about like I should think about an answer to this. But I will say the overarching why is for me, it all comes down to gratitude. I am grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to have the body and the abilities that I have. And so everything I do, whether it's high rocks, ultra, anything, like to me, I would say the overarching driving factor is gratitude. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to be able to do what I do.
Awesome.
So
How do you describe what you do? Like, do you just say you're an athlete? Do you say you're a hybrid athlete? Do you say you're a runner? If someone
You
asks,
know yeah, most of the time when people are like, "Oh, you're an athlete, like, what do you do?" I mostly just say, like, I mostly run a lot." It's just kinda the way I describe it. HYROX is still, like, some people have heard of it, some people haven't, and I sometimes and because I do so many things, I feel like sometimes the easiest thing is just, like, because 'cause they'll be like, "Oh, do you do, like, track meets?" Like, "No, no, I just run a lot." Is what I say, which really doesn't sum it up, but, yeah, I'm now at the place of, like, I want to be a well-rounded athlete, and I'm in a pretty good rhythm/routine of, like, I high rocks during the high rocks season, which is loosely, like, October through June, and then I now like to have my summer of ultra, so I like to just run and be in the mountains during the summer, so
do you have certain goals? Like you said, you want to be like this, hybrid athlete or whatever. But are you looking to achieve certain things in HYROX, certain things in ultra? Is it just be the best athlete you can be?
Um, mostly just be the best athlete I can be. I mean, from any given year, I have, like, loose goals, but I wouldn't say there's anything that I'm like, "If I attain this, then I'll be, like, happy or satisfied." I think, honestly, like, I kind of came into a lot of this with a decent amount of success, so I've already, like, done well in the ultra trail world. I've set some records, I've done some cool stuff there. I've won High Rocks World Championships, so there's a lot of, like, I've, like, already done some cool things. There's very much like, obviously, the field has changed. I am not good at ultra, like, I've had some easy successes and stuff, but there's not any one thing that it's like, "This is what I have to achieve, this is what I have to be." To me, it all comes down to, like, I wanna be a well-rounded athlete, and I think I would sum that up in, like, I want to kinda be able to do whatever I wanna do, so if I want to go and run a high rocks and get a good time, I should be able to do that. If I wanna go run a 100 miler or spend a couple days out in the woods surviving, like, I wanna be able to do that. So, to me, it comes down to more, like, outside of sport goals, I want to be, like, strong and capable in anything I do. And then, I mean, for me, like, longevity is a long piece, like or is a large piece of this. Like, I wanna be doing this for the next 70, 80 how old am I? So, yeah, 70 or 80 years till I'm 100 or so. So
What is your for people that don't know, like, what is your background? Like, I know you from like HYROX back in 2022, but is it what were you doing up to that point from your childhood onwards?
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, I was actually homeschooled, so didn't go to school, didn't do any kind of organized sports, just spent a lot of time, like, playing outside, climbing trees, being a kid. Um, Messed around with my siblings with some sports, like, I liked volleyball, I liked soccer, I liked basketball, but never played anything organized, so it was all just kinda like, "Oh, this is fun, let's kinda get better at this and understand the basic rules of the game." Um, really didn't do anything and I always, like, ha s my dad's side of the family is a bit, like, thicker, stockier, and then my mom's side of the family is more, like, taller and slender, and so I have more on my mom's side, and I was always told, like, you're a good runner, you'd be a good runner." But I had no concept of, like, running at all. We would run a 5K that my dad's company had entries to, kinda, like, once, twice a year, and so, like, through my teen years, I was like, "Oh, go run a 5K," and it was very much like, "Run, I'm gonna walk for a bit," and, finished a 5K, would do decent in my age group unless the high school kids showed up. It wasn't until I was, I think, 19-ish that I went and did an obstacle course race, and that, like, through a series of events kind of triggered, like, realizing there's I don't know, honestly, it just kind of opened up niche sports to me because by the time I was 19, 20, I was like, "Well, anybody that's good at any of these sports, soccer, volleyball, basketball, the sports that I kinda like, they've been playing this for the past 15 years, and there's not really, like, adult leagues." Like, I had no in on any of those sports, but obstacle course racing was kinda just like, "Oh, it's new for everybody," and I have like general like body awareness and a little bit of like a tough mindset. So I'm like, I can kind of do this. Um, yeah, started doing that, and then when, uh, HYROX and DecaFit came on the scene, I was going to a gym that was a great, like it's kinda like an OCR focused gym, but had a really good base of a, kinda like a three-pronged, like, we're building strength, running, and mobility, durability, like, a very well-rounded, approach to fitness there. So, when Deca and HYROX came around, I was like, "Well, I'm pretty strong, like, I should be able to do these." Um yeah, and so kinda came into that, and I was, through my 20s also evolved into more of, like, understanding what an athlete is and what working out is and training and programs, all that kinda stuff, because it was all brand new to me, at early 20s, so
Yeah. Away from training and like being an athlete, are you working as a nanny still?
yes, I am a full-time nanny. So I have 3 kids that are 6, 4, and almost 2, and yeah, I love it. I love my job. I love the, balance that it brings of, like, I have my pursuit, I have my thing that I do, spend several hours every morning, like, pursuing what makes me better as a person, and then I get to spend the rest of the day, like I mean, these kids are funny, they're a lot sometimes, but it's a very rewarding job of just kind of, like, seeing their growth and their progress and, like and they're yeah, they're hilarious. They keep me laughing. So, I love
Good.
that's the other thing I would say I'm, like, really passionate about is, like, children and growth/development, and yeah, I love my job.
Do you find are you finding like enough time to train as much as you want, like having a full-time job as well?
Yes, absolutely. My job, I work Monday through Thursday, so I always have a long weekend, which I very much appreciate. It makes traveling for all these races very easy or very much more doable. Um And yeah, I can easily put in several hours a day for myself, and then sometimes I'll even, do stroller run or do a little something with the kids. The only thing that is a slightly more negative factor is kids are just kind of like germ factories and they get sick a lot. And so I have to deal with a lot of like they'll get sick. Of course, that's my job is, like, to take care of them, so I don't take time off when they get sick, and then I miss it, I don't get sick, or I will typically get sick, like, a week after they are, like, my body, like, holds on for a bit, and then it's like, "Okay, no, we we can't hold up against this." So, I would say that's the one thing that, like, is not is a little less advantageous towards what I wanna be doing physically, so but
That's it.
it's worth it.
They want cuddles more when they're sick as well, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They want all the cuddles. You get snot all over. Yeah. Especially my youngest, that's almost 2-year-old, like, he's one of the most dramatic sick children that I've ever seen, and he just wants to lie down, just wants to be held. He'll come over to me, I'll stand up and go and work on something. He comes over to me without even looking up. He just reaches his hands up and just, like, moves his
Oh,
hands. He just wants to be held. So, yeah, he's a very, very snuggly sick baby, but it's sweet, and, that's a lot of times I'll, like, if it's warm enough, I'm like, fresh air is always good for sickness. I just throw him in the stroller, go out for a walk or a run, and, yeah, we make it work.
it prepares you for the germs around a HYROX convention center as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never gotten sick from a HYROX, so maybe that's
Amazing.
my secret weapon.
Yeah. I heard you're doing a degree in psychology as well.
I am, yes. This is something yeah, I never went to school. I went straight to working, and I've worked for the past 10 years, but I've always, like, wanted to have some form of an education, so found an online program that's very accelerated, so I can go at my own pace, and, yeah, it's been really enjoyable. Psychology is something that, like, I have an interest in over the past, 6, 7 years, I've read a lot of books on especially, like, sports psychology, but also, like, child development, like, all these kinds of things, like, that's something that I am very interested in, and so a lot of I struggle it's a bachelor's of science, so I'm not really, like, a math head, so I struggle with the sciences and the math courses, but when it comes to psychology courses, I'm like, "I already know most of these studies, I know several of the different conclusions that have come from them," like, I love the psychology side of things, so, yeah.
Because I asked Katie Simonson, your doubles partner, if there's anything
Yeah.
I should ask you, and she told me about that, and she said I should ask you about your love of statistics class.
I just spent last weekend with her, and statistics was a class that really held me up for a while because I was like, "None of this makes any sense. It's all ridiculous." But I've started talking I like, mentioned to several people at Atlanta last weekend, I was like, Statistics is the worst thing, and there's either people are either statistics people or not statistics people. So they either love it, that's what they do as their job, it was a course they loved, or they're like, "Yeah, that was the worst." I took they had to take several courses and yeah. I would say most people, like, highly dislike it, but there's a couple people I'm like, "Yeah, you guys are the real nerds," because to like something like this takes a different kind of brain.
um,
Mm.
your Instagram bio says silent moves, loud results. Uh, is there a reason that like you've picked that phrase in particular to put in your bio?
I just kind of like it. There's a lot of it's similar to the work hard in silence, let success be your noise. But I like this because it's even less about, like, success being your noise, but just the results, period. But honestly, a lot of it is I don't always share a whole lot on Instagram, and so now I kind of like the approach of, like, well, maybe I'm just working silently and I'll let my success or my results speak. So it's a little bit of a, I don't know, what do you call it, like a double entendre of, like, yeah, I'm working hard and, like, the results will show, but also, like, I kinda work in the dark mostly because I'm just not good at sharing a lot of what I do, so I think
It's
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 a
funny.
little
I
bit of
was I
both.
was, I was thinking about like your training, everything when I was preparing for this, and I was like, not sure I've ever seen like footage of you in a gym. Like, it's just like you do all
It's
your
out there
training in the
somewhere.
mountains.
No, no, I go to a gym, I almost, most mornings from, like, 4 to 6:30, I'm in a gym, but I have kinda gotten to a point where, like, that's, like, very much just my lifestyle, it's a part of my life, it's, like, a non-negotiable, so I don't show up there thinking about, like, "What am I gonna do? How am I gonna die?" Like, I show up, I do the work most of the time, I just leave my phone in the car unless I'm doing, like, a treadmill run, I'll bring it in to watch something. But, yeah, like, filming and recording me working out is just not something I don't know, it's not something I've put a whole lot of time and attention into yet. So, um, yeah, I work out a lot, but I also realized that I was like, I think a lot of times, like, working out is somebody's, like, passion interest, like, it's something that they want to share about, and for me, it's just like, no, I just kinda do it, and I don't look pretty when I'm working out, I don't my clothes don't match, I get dressed early in the morning, uh, I don't wanna have to, like, think about sharing that with others, but I do share a lot when I ride my horse. So I realized I was like, I think I'm less of a fitness influencer. I'm more just like a horse influencer, but I am working out. It's happening. Just
Okay.
doesn't show up on the gram a whole lot.
Okay. Okay. Um, I want to talk about HYROX a little bit, but first, I read, I think it was in the hybrid letter, there was a 100 miler in Wyoming you did in the summer of 2021. Uh, can you tell us about that race? Because I think it sort of leads nicely onto what happened afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that 100 miler was, I mean, to this day, still like one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And I feel like it changed me both like physically and mentally as a person. This was their inaugural year, and it was supposed to be a point to point in kind of like this range of mountains in Wyoming. And due to thunderstorms and weather rolling in, or that was going to be rolling in, they decided to turn it into just an out and back. Anyways, is inaugural year, a lot of the trails were marginally maintained, like, if at all, so it was a very, like, remote area, and, yeah, it was, 30,000 feet of elevation gain, which I guess is, like, 10,000 meters if you or no, do you speak in feet or meters?
Meters are good.
Meter, yeah, okay. Anyways, there's a lot of elevation gain, and a lot of the trails is just kinda like bushwhacking and just kinda crazy, and, um, it rained for 12 hours of this race, it rained, hailed, and snowed, and it took me, I think the fastest finisher was 30 something hours, it took me 45 hours, and I was one of only 17 people to finish. But it's just one of those things, like, spending 45 hours out in the wilderness questioning life and survival, it completely reframed, like, what hard is, and so, now, like, if it's less than 45 hours, like, not that bad. If it's not raining, hailing, and snowing, like, not that bad, so, it was just a very memorable experience of, like, really getting close to pushing the limits of, like, what's possible. So,
Okay,
yeah.
amazing. And then I guess a year effectively after that, like I read when I was researching that you said like that led to a lot of successes, including the World Championship win in 2022 in Las Vegas. Um, like do you credit like that race in Wyoming like as a big part of that, and like do you remember that day winning the world championships? Like, how did it feel? Everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it absolutely, like, changed my ability to, like, push and challenge myself. I did my very first HYROX in spring of 2020, and it was 2 weeks after I had done a 100 miler, and I think I finished with, like, a 1 hour, 17 minutes, and it was, it was brand new to the States, and I was like, "This was cool," and literally my thought after that was like, "I can do both." Like, I can do the ultra, and I can still do well in HYROX. But then with everything shutting down for 2020, I didn't do another HYROX until fall of 2021, or I guess it was December of 2021. So it was, yeah, it's after Wyoming. I mean, Wyoming just like changed me as a person. I don't think I don't even necessarily like think about it when I challenge myself, but it just fundamentally changed me. So yeah, coming back in December 2021 to do my next HYROX, this is my second HYROX ever. Um, it destroyed me. I feel like the sled push, the sled pull were so hard. I remember being so sore afterwards, and I was like, "This sucks." But it gave me a very big feeling of like, I can do better in this. And so, in January of 2022 was Chicago, what did they I think it was North American champs or something is what they called it. Chicago of 2022. And that's where, after this one in December or yeah, Chicago in January 20 after this one in December, I was like, "I can do better. Like, I can do better. I should do better. Like, I have more to give in this, like, sport." So, I went to Chicago, and that was a big one. I finished I think yeah, Lauren was just barely pregnant, but I'm not sure if she did maybe she had announced it? But I finished just off the podium. I finished in 4th place, and that time mostly qualified me for world champs, and I was like, "Okay," or like it almost did because you had to be in the top 15. But after that race, I was like, "Okay, I did way better than I was expecting." A lot of big names had showed up to that, and I had beaten a lot of them. So I was like, "Okay, this is really cool." At that time, I was still wearing like minimalist trail shoes to race high rocks. So those, I think my first 3 ones were these little like they great tread. I liked them, and I like a minimalist shoe, but looking back now, I'm like, "Wow, that was a choice." Um, yeah, so I would s yeah, and then leading into world champs, I raced in Dallas I think it was, like, in April, and with that one, I had a friend that hadn't qualified for world champs yet, and at the time, if you qualify in any division, you were, like, in for world champs, and you could sign up for any division you wanted. So he and I raced mixed doubles. I think we actually got, like, 2nd, but we got a decent enough time. He qualified for worlds, and then a couple of hours later, I ran the pro individual and won. And I think my time was still like 1:08, 1:09, which is the time that ended up getting me into world champs. So, um, yeah, I think right after that Dallas, I moved to Colorado, so I kinda had a month of no work. I was just kinda getting settled in Colorado, and yeah, I thought about world champs a lot. I thought about, like, I've gotten so much better in this. I know I can do even better. But when I showed up to world champs in 2022, I was not planning to win. I thought I could get top 5. I had not raced anybody from Europe at that point. Like, this is the first time I had experienced kind of all of that coming together. And my thought was like, I should be able to get top 5. Yeah, so the win was, like, very unexpected. I Do you want me to, like, talk through the race and, like, how that went
Uh,
for me or
not necessarily, not necessarily. Like,
okay.
is that like? Did you just like? How did the win feel? Like, what was the
Yeah.
emotion of that?
Well, I'll just say, like, I did not know I was gonna win until I had about 30 wall balls left. It was very like, I shocked myself. It wasn't until I mean, I don't know, I've talked about this some, but I this was my first time racing at, like, a 6 PM race. I think it was, like, 6 or 7 or something, and so eating-wise, I wasn't really sure what to do. I kinda ate more and differently than I should have, and I actually threw up halfway through that race.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I think it was either before or after the row, um, that I on the back half of the course, I was like, "Oh, I am losing." It was chips and guacamole. I was like, "I'm losing that." So, I kinda threw up off to the side of the course and then felt a lot better after that. Um, but it wasn't until I think it was maybe soon after that run, they had the time thing up, and I realized I was like, "I'm in 4th place," which was a complete shock to me because the sleds were a really big struggle, and I'd come off those sleds, I believe in, like, 12th place is what I'd seen. So I was like, "Okay, I can work my way up to the 5th," whatever. So when I saw that I was in 4th place, I was like, "Wow," and then it was farmer's carry. There were 2 people in front I think it was Alondra and Viola were in front of me at the time. No, Alondra and somebody else, maybe Miriam? Um or I came in 3rd or 4th there, and I did the farmer's carry unbroken, but I still and I knew I was okay, I was in, like, 4th place, but leaving there, I passed somebody going out through the rock zone, and then oh, no, yeah, somebody stopped for water, and I passed them. I was like, "Okay, I just made it past." And then I ran out right after I think it was Alondra that was in 1st at the time, and I remember, like, feeling great on this run, and I ran past her, and I was like, "Wait, am I in the lead?" Like, it was very much a and I kinda had to do a quick check, like, "Am I okay? Like, what's going on here?" It's like, "Yeah, I feel great. I'm just gonna keep running." Like, here we go, so and then I know I, like on the lunges, they passed me some because I was not very good at lunging. It wasn't until I mean, I came into the wall balls in 1st, but I knew Miriam was behind me, and I knew she was 100 wall balls unbroken, and I was far from that. So I forget even how many breaks I took, but it wasn't until I picked the ball up at 70 and knew I could do the last 30 and knew that nobody else had caught me yet, that it hit me like, "Wait, I'm actually gonna win this." Because going into wall balls, I fully thought I was like, "I can run, but, like, they're gonna outstation me." Yeah, so it was a very I mean, I shocked myself probably more I mean, I think I shocked everybody, but I might have been the most shocked person there. So,
Is
yeah.
that like, do you think of that as like whatever the pinnacle of what you've done? Like, I know you've done a lot, like the ultras, and you've got a lot of wins behind you. But is that peak for you or not?
I mean, in some ways, yes. For sure in HYROX, that was a massive peak, but I will say, like, part of why I love the ultras so much is because you have so much time. And there's some level of HYROX, it takes, like, 1 hour. And so 1 hour, I feel like in some ways it's a little hard to process even, like, how you're feeling or what's happening, and then, like, an hour and it's all done. And so, yes, like, that was very satisfying, that was very much like a absolute pinnacle of, like, achievement, but at the same time, it was just an hour, and I think there's I mean, there's a level of, like, "Did that really happen? Like, is that really, like" and I know afterwards, I there was a quote that I read, and it's something about, like, an hour of, like, pain, suffering, discomfort, but the results will, like, last forever or something, and that was kinda my thought was, like, I just spent an hour, and somehow this came out of it. So I will say, like, yes, while it was, like, very satisfying and exciting, like, I would still count some of my ultra successes as almost like feeling more, I think just because you have so much more time to feel. So,
Yeah,
that's not to
yeah.
discount like, a HYROX win is huge, but I will say, at least for me, from my frame of reference, it was like, it was just an hour. Like, how did this success come from just an hour? Like,
Yeah.
no.
And we're still talking about it
Yeah.
3 years later.
Yeah, look at us. That's crazy.
um, Amazing. Uh, 3 years later, you competed in the World Championships in Chicago, 2025 World Champs.
Did I
In
though? Not sure if that counts.
well, you're in the elite singles and doubles. I
Yeah.
mean, this feels like a negative question to be fair after what we've just talked about. But in the singles, you dropped out the race, uh, and you said afterwards that you're not sure how you feel about doing that.
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel about it now? And
I
why did you do that as well?
Yeah, yeah. No, I went into it, I mean, for a little bit of background, like, I, in early 2024, had a very I tore my meniscus, had to take a lot of time off. And so 20 going into 2025, I honestly, like, didn't really have any idea where I would be at or what kind of expectations to have. I raised well towards the end of 2024 and then got my spot into Worlds through really I mean, it was a month, 5 4, 5 5, 6 weeks before Worlds is when I got my spot in the Elite 15 through Barcelona, and actually, no, it wasn't until 2 weeks before that I knew I was in, because Meg dropped out. So it was a
Yeah,
very I feel like I didn't really have a lot of time to, like, gear up for that race, and, like, it was there was a thought that, like, I could be in it, but at the same time, I think I also didn't spend a lot of time dwelling on that because if you're not in it, like, so yeah, really, I kinda had 2 weeks to lead up. I felt healthy, I felt good. My knees have definitely, like, been a lot up and down since the whole meniscus thing. Um, and so I went into it, like, excited to be racing, but also without a whole lot of, like, knowledge of where I would be at. Like, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself and how this would go down. Yeah, and I went out, um, and there wasn't even, like, any one thing. It wasn't like, "Oh, this is not a good day." It just kinda wasn't a good day. I felt very, like, flat and heavy, um, and just kinda couldn't run, and wasn't in any, like, crazy pain, but everything was just kind of uncomfortable. And I've never, like, quit or dropped out of anything, but kinda my thinking for why I dropped out was, like, this is supposed to, like, exhibit the top of the best of the best, and I think I dropped out right after the burpees maybe, and it was after that after doing the burpees and, when you come into a station, you have a sense of where you are, and I think I was still finishing burpees when the people were coming into row, and there's definitely a sense of, like, embarrassment, like, not really even for me, because I was like, "I don't care," but more of, like, "This isn't what this is supposed to be." Like, this is supposed to be 15 people at the top of the sport really, like, showing what's possible. And so my thought on that was like, "Well, I will come into wall balls after everybody has finished, and I will be doing 100 wall balls alone." And I was like, "I don't think that's what I want this race to be." Like, I don't want it to be like, I don't know, it should be about the winners, it should be about the top of the field. Yes, there's always the stragglers that come in, but to have one person doing 100 wall balls after everybody is finished just kinda felt stupid. So, I was like, yeah. It didn't and that's like, it didn't really I was just like, "It's not my day, it's not the day." I feel like it didn't really affect me, it didn't really I was just kinda like, "Yeah, this is just not it." And honestly, like, I still kinda I'm like, "Did I quit?" Like, was I just too worried about what people would think about me? And I really feel like it wasn't, like, a feeling of, like, shame and embarrassment for me, it was just a, like, this is not what this race is about. Not here for it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And you also did the doubles, the elite doubles,
Yeah.
with Katie, and you've done the doubles recently in Hamburg as well. I mean, we can talk about those races if you want. But I'm more interested in like what your thoughts are on like just the scale of the sport compared to like 2022 as well. Like, is it significantly different for you? And like, what is the experience now as an elite athlete in the sport?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's night and day difference. I feel like before, like, I mean, they weren't selling out, so you could show up to any race you wanted to. I feel like there's almost like a lot less, I mean, there's way less exhibition around all of it. So it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I'll go do a HYROX here and like that'll be fun. And oh, I did really well. And like, oh, I won. Like even when I won world championships, oh, okay, I won that. Cool. And like move on to the next thing. And now I would say, like, so much, especially of the people at the top of the sport, like, this is truly their sport, and this is their life and their lifestyle, and, like, this is everything that they're, like, invested in, and it's a very and not only that, but also HYROX is very invested in the sport, in the athletes. Um, yeah, so it's a very I mean, now racing to me, I mean, for me personally, honestly, it kinda still feels the same, like, "Yeah, I'll do a HYROX, I can do that," like, um, and I would say, like, I don't really to me, it is something that I do, but, like, I'm not just a HYROX athlete, so there's a level of I don't know, I feel like I go there and to a lot of people, like, this is their dance floor, this is their thing, and I feel a little bit I don't know, I'm like, there's a lot and it's just and I would say that's just from my perspective, I'm like, there's a lot more to my life, there's a lot more that I do, and, like, I want to do well in it, I do enjoy doing well in it, but just because I enjoy it, not because of, like, how big it's gotten, like, I like to show up to a HYROX and really challenge myself and try to get a better time, and I do believe there's still growth for me in HYROX, and I would say it's a whole lot less about because of how big HYROX has gotten, and even the opportunities that it opens, like, that's not really what it's about for me, like, to me, it's just a really cool environment to, like, really test myself physically. So,
Yeah, makes
yeah.
sense. How do you feel about the like elite qualifying process at the moment? Are you happy with how that's set up?
I think it's a lot of loopholes. I will never, I will just never be happy. I loved doubles last year, being able to show up to a race, race the competition there, and move from there. Both doubles and Barcelona were like top experiences because you get to forget about times and what everybody else has done and all the things you need to worry about. And you get to just be there on the day race your best, and the results speak for themselves. So I will never be happy with it as long as it is time based. It should be race based, race who's there, the best, may the best person win. Um, times, making everything equal, whatever they're standardizing, like all of this, like, cool, like, great job. But I will never be okay with it as long as it's based on time, like, times based on this, like, on I mean, even if they do have a standardized and there's the rock zone is always the same length, whatever, it is different courses, it is different days, like, I just yeah, I don't I will say like, all of my top HYROX experiences have been when they are not time-based, when it's like, "Show up, who's got it today?" World Champs 2022, even qualifying into doubles, which we had to race again to qualify into doubles. Barcelona was like a top experience because you show up with everybody that's like, oh, well, they've run these times and they've run these times. None of that matters. Today matters. Go do it. Go show what you got. Like I think that's to do it based off of time will never ever make sense to me. I want to race. I want to race people, not the clock. So,
Okay, makes sense. That's fair. You've posted a few times lately on Instagram about women's hormones and like considerations for like certain phases of the month. Uh, uh, I don't know necessarily what my question is, but like, is there anything in particular you think like might be missed or getting underappreciated by like the female community in HYROX?
yes, well, I would say it's not even the female community. I think it is the world as a whole. I think we have spent a lot of time researching health, researching wellness, researching fitness, with the idea that people are people and what works for people works for people. And to a point, that is true, but physiologically, men and women are built very differently. And that is not to say that one is superior, one is not. They're just different. They are very different. And the less that we try to treat everybody as the same, like it's not about, I mean, even like equality on this, everybody should be treated the same. You should be treated as the person that you are. And men's physiological makeup is so much different than women's physiological makeup. The way that they respond to, um, the way that they respond to input, the way that, like, not like, I don't know, literally everything is different. And so I am really big on like there's a lot of discomfort talking about women's health because so much of it is based around menstruation and cycle, which is kind of like an uncomfortable thing, and people don't wanna talk about that. Another important phase of their cycle is like ovulation, which people are like, "Okay, that's just for getting pregnant." Like, so much about women's hormones is seen to be in the reproductive, ideology thing of like, well, it's about babies, right? And, like, it is not about babies. It is about women, and it is about women's health. And I think especially in the athlete culture, there's so much of, like, trying to keep up and trying to, like, literally almost, like, downplay the fact that our hormones are so different and, like, women's hormones are very volatile and fluctuate a lot, and more kinda, like, downplay that and, like, the less we have to think about that, which is complicated and it's, like, a lot to think about, the more we can just, like, okay, just try to be on all the time. I think it's really ignoring a huge part of women's physiology, like, circadian rhythm, everybody's aware of the circadian rhythm, 24-hour cycle, and there's everybody knows, like, in the health space, like, if you don't sleep, eat, and move a certain amount within those hours and kind of, like, understand the regulation of that, your body's not gonna be happy. Like, ignoring your circadian rhythm is not healthy for you now, long term, ever. And women are also we're all on a circadian rhythm, but there is also an infradian rhythm, which is about 28 days, about it's the moon cycle. And women have like an entire second biological clock that is wrapped up in that. And so this whole idea of like, okay, well, like we understand 24 hours, certain things should happen within those 24 hours to maintain your health. At the same time, for women, they have another biological clock to factor in. And I just think there is not enough awareness and not enough like conversation around it. And so like like lucky enough, but also like I've read books and like cared about this enough to where like I have a very healthy hormone, like my hormone health is very great. And like I don't even like struggle with this, but I see so many people that are struggling with understanding, appreciating, and working with, like, their actual bodies. Like, you can't just ignore this and think that your body's gonna be fine. So, all that to say, like, I'm no expert, but it is something that I feel very strongly about, and I hate to see like and that's the thing is, like, okay, well, it's easy to just kinda, like, shut this down and ignore it and, like, let's just focus on fitness. But when you are not cycling regularly, your body is not going through the hormone fluctuations that it needs to. It affects I mean, if it affects women very much, both short term, because in your menstruation years, you are doing so much like building up your health so that when you start to decline, everybody starts to decline at some point. If you don't let your body do all the building up during your prime years, you are starting that decline from a very much lower place than you should be. And so, bone health, brain health, like everything that matters, especially long term, is so, so affected by not understanding your hormones and your biological functions through, like, the crucial years of, like, I mean, it's like 18 to 40 are, like, really important years, and yeah, so it's something that I've thought about for a while, and recently I had more conversations where I was like, "You know what? I've always kind of felt like I don't have the room to talk because I haven't experienced any of the negative side effects of this and the negative effects of this," but I'm like, "You know, like, I have, like, read and I do feel very strongly about it," and so I just want there to be more conversation, more awareness around it, and not seen as like, "Oh, well, you know, then you can, like, modify, you can change." Like, I live my life exactly the way I want to, but with an awareness of, like, these things matter, and,
Mhm.
yeah, and I think yeah, I mean, kinda like you said, like, so many men I mean, honestly, everybody are uncomfortable with, like, "Oh, that sounds like a lot." Well, women have been left out of research studies for years because they're complicated, and I'm over that. Like, we're complicated, men are complicated, men's hormones also matter, like, less of the, like, "Oh, it's complicated," and more of like, "Okay, let's dig into this." So, yeah, that's my spiel.
Okay, good, good. Is it aside from uh like your Instagram and just like Google and everything, like is there any particular places like if someone's like, I want to read more on this, I want to understand this better, is there any particular
Um,
places?
I read 2 books that were I felt very, like, educational for me. One is called In the Flow, and I forget who it's written by, and the other one is called Invisible Women by Suzanne somebody. I should know those. But those were 2 very interesting books on just kind of like yeah, more of, like, the information of, like, what's going on here and how like, what being I think that brings so much awareness, and from there, then you can take action. I've also worked I mean, on Instagram, um, I have 2 friends that, like, specifically work with women's hormones, so anybody that comes to me, like, but I am not the expert, but I do know experts, and so Coach K Wellness, and then my friend, Tracy Rickstrew, I think her Instagram is, like, perimenopause something, she works more with, like, older women, but those I definitely have sources of, like, people that you should be talking to. It's not necessarily me, but we need to be talking, and you need to be talking to experts, and I think everybody should be educating themselves more on how we all work, and that's I mean, that's the other thing too is, like, women's hormones is something I can, like, actually speak to, but men's hormones also are very, misunderstood and not, paid enough attention to, so I think it's something all of us should be considering. That should be, like, the first line of, like, "Oh, something's a little off," like, "Where are your hormones at?" That is, like, your actual internal state
Mhm.
versus, like, more ice baths and, whatever, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Awesome. Let's talk about training a little bit, if that's okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, I believe that after Chicago, up to Hamburg, really, you didn't do an awful lot of HYROX training at all. It was more like being outside and just enjoying yourself and doing what you felt was right. Like, is that just because that's what you wanted to do? Is that like what you feel is optimal for a long HYROX season? Yeah. How do you feel about sort of that
Well,
approach to training?
if you've experienced summers in Colorado, then well, I guess from my perspective, summer in Colorado is not to be spent inside. It is to be spent outdoors. It is meant to be spent up high and in the mountains. I will say, like, during my work week when I'm down here, because down in Denver, like, I have my work, my gym, my kind of like my space there. Every weekend during the summer, I want to be 4 or 5 hours west in the mountains on top of peaks. I'll cover 60, 70 miles in a weekend. I yeah, I just like to be outdoors out there. So I would say through the summer, I was still working out at the gym, but there was much less of an emphasis on performance, more just kind of like maintaining. So I show up, do the workouts, a lot of just, like, basic strength maintaining, but not as far for me, I think what changes the most is the running. Didn't do a lot of, like, threshold runs, run workouts. Most of my runs was big, long days in the mountains on the weekends and then kind of recovering and coming back from that during the week. So, Yeah, still honestly got, like, maintained a decent HYROX base, but the running was the biggest thing that, like, "You know what? I'm not just gonna be running on treadmills and tracks and trying to run fast on flat trails, like, I wanna be out getting lost in the mountains." So, um, yeah, I actually I really liked I mean, number one thing is, like, summer in the mountains is not to be wasted, but also I think it creates I mean, it keeps me mentally happy, I guess, is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So then when I come back to HYROX, when it starts getting cold, like, okay, well, now I'll spend some time on the treadmill. I'll spend some time doing workouts. I'm okay with that now.
Do
So,
you what sort of when you are training for HYROX specifically, what type of running sessions do you feel are most beneficial? Do you like just try and keep it to threshold? Are you going faster? Are you still doing a lot of zone two and easy work in there? How might it look for HYROX?
I'm good with all of those. A lot less zone two, I think, because I spend so much time zone two. That's like less of something I have to like consciously be aware of. I like to do two threshold sessions and then one, I guess I call it like a sprint, some kind of sprint workout. Those are kind of like my three that I like to hit every week. I will say it's been different this year. My knee is still, like, really not always happy with me, and so I have found I have to do a lot of incline treadmill. Incline treadmill is the one thing that keeps my knee happy. So, it's looked a little bit different, but still with that, yeah, a lot of time on the treadmill, uphill treadmill, and while I felt like I was maintaining some level of, um, speed through that, I realized racing Atlanta this past well, Hamburg and Atlanta while it keeps my knee happy, it definitely affects, like, my flat running speed, so I'm trying to figure out a balance of, like, still keeping the knee happy with lots of incline treadmill, but messing around with more speed at a flat pace, so,
Okay.
yeah.
How has your training changed over like 4 years, if you like, in HYROX? Has there been any sort of major changes or sort of any realizations that maybe like that sort of approach didn't work or anything like that?
Yeah. It's got a lot more consistent. I would say that's the biggest thing. Coming from like a non-sporting background and like a lot of just like enjoying life, really good at enjoying life, less good at like really putting in the work daily, and part of enjoying life, like, I love to race, like, that's really fun. Putting in the work daily isn't all that. So I'd say that's one of the biggest things is consistency, and then also, like, training a bit smarter. When I first moved out here to Colorado, which I've been here for, I guess, 3.5 years now, I was going to a CrossFit gym, and I would do some of their workouts, and some of them I'm like I would tell myself, like, "This is helping me as an athlete, but it's not really, like, helping me get any better at High Rocks," which I think is good, like, just helping you as an athlete is great, but I think I've gotten a lot more specific with, like, like, evaluating, like, what I need to improve on in High Rocks, and then making sure that my workouts throughout the week, like, really are working on those weaknesses and kinda help it bring it all together, so, honestly, it's just, like, more knowledge and more specificity, I guess.
Yeah. What is your, I mean, maybe this is a hard question to answer, but what is your training volume? I guess like if you're out in the mountains for a weekend, then that's a lot of training volume in a way as well. But
Yeah. No, I would say I mean, now during the week, it's kinda I don't know, I would say, like, 10 to 15 hours maybe?
okay.
So, yeah.
Would you like to do more if in an ideal world or not necessarily?
In an ideal world, I think the training would stay about the same, but I think I'd do more sleeping. I could do with some more, like, rest, recovery, sleeping. So, no, I'm pretty happy with 10 to 15 feels very adequate. Um, yeah, I do more resting, recovery, sleeping stuff if I had more time.
You mentioned your meniscus injury.
Yeah.
I think you were out for quite a long time. Like, I think for someone like you, or any athlete really, but for someone like you especially, that must have been like quite hard to deal with. Um, like, how was it? How did you cope mentally? Was there anything like in particular that helped you through that period?
Um, yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. I've never been like that debilitated that quickly ever before. I think one of the number one things I did was delete my Instagram, or like I deleted the app off my phone. I think that was a huge help because staying involved in like what everybody's doing and what's going on, I was like, I quickly realized that's only gonna hurt me like mentally. Um, it was a very like I like to get steps, like, I just like movement, and so having, like, a steps thing is really fun, and I was barely shuffling around for over a month, and so I think I mean, I think the thing that helped me a lot to kinda deal with it was very quickly adjusting expectations. Um, I quickly, like, dropped my step goal down to, like, 2 or 3,000, and, like, I was happy if I got 2 or 3,000 steps in a day, like, there's an achievement right there. Definitely focused on, like, I kinda have this saying of, like, "Ask not what you can do for your body, but what your body can do for you." And that's what I've always said is, like, I'm not here to, like, make my body feel good. My body's here to work for me, and it better show up and do what I tell it to do. So that's always kind of been my mentality, but I realized through this was like, "You know what? My body's done a lot for me. It normally does whatever I ask of it, and I'm really grateful for that." And this right now is my body saying, like, "Please stop," like, hard stop. And so I kinda had this idea of, like, my body's done a lot for me. Now it's time for me to do something for my body. And by doing that is like respecting it enough to like rest and do nothing. For several weeks, I like couldn't even walk around the block without significant pain. Um, so there was a lot of honestly, there was a lot of tears of just like, I am so broken and so incapable. Of course, I still had to work. And so there were even tears about like I couldn't get down on the floor with my kids. Like I had to do this weird, like straight leg maneuvering down. Um, but I will say, like, having a job, having something to still show up for, and just completely, like, you know, putting on off to the side the whole athletic thing, I think that helped. I started sleeping more, I started cooking more, and that was kinda my thing is, like, it's time for me to just, like, be there for my body and, like, give it the space to heal. Um and then, yeah, from there, it was even I couldn't bike, I couldn't row, there was nothing I could do because my knees were so inflamed. I had, like, actually 0 mobility. I couldn't even swim for the longest time. So it was just this very, like, helpless feeling of, like and I think like, yes, I was losing fitness, but at the same time, I was, like, losing fitness and, like, resting, fully repairing is better than trying to maintain some idea of being fit when it's like, "No, you're actually so broken." So, yeah, it was a very, like, I guess, like, humbling time. Definitely spent more time I, like, went and visited both of my grandparents, and tried to focus on, like, what I can do. And then, yeah, it was definitely, like, finally after, like, 2 months was a little bit of, like, "Okay, I can walk now for, 30 minutes, an hour." So I started walking for, like, 2 hours. Just like 6, 8 weeks in, I was like, "Okay, I think I could do some yoga now," like some just low basic. So I started doing yoga, but then I was like, "I can do yoga twice a day," and within a couple days, I hurt myself doing yoga. So I was like, "Can't do anything here." Yeah, but I would say the thing that got me through is just being, like, very, like, gracious and respectful towards my body and, like, again, so much of it to me is, like, gratitude, like, appreciating what it's done for me, and then respecting the fact that, like, okay, it's asking for a hard stop. I can do that. I can give that to it. Um, so, yeah, initially, like, even by the summer of 2024, I was back to a place of like, okay, like everything's kinda clicking, and there was a little bit of like, if I ran a 100-miler that summer, and there was a level of like, about, I think 60 miles in, I was like, "Okay, I need some compression on my knees." But now I would say my other knee, I think I haven't MRI'd, like, I don't really wanna confirm it, I would rather just kinda work around it, I guess, but I think my other knee definitely has some meniscus something going on. So, now I kinda struggle with the, like especially, like, okay, on the incline treadmill, like, everything's fine, everything will be fine for several days, and then it'll kinda, like, click/catch and, like, "Ooh, now things are not great." If I spend too much time going up and down mountains, then it'll be, like, inflamed and really stiff for several days. So, honestly, still trying to, like I I struggle with, like, is this another hard stop? And it really doesn't feel like a hard stop. It feels more of a, like, warning, like, be aware, be conscious of what's going on here. And for now, I'm hoping to work with it. I would really like to avoid surgery of any kind, so I'd rather just kinda, like, work through it. But, yeah, it's been a year and a half now of, like, do I have knees? Do I not? Like, what's going on here? So, it's definitely
Have,
been a experience.
how did it happen in the first place? Was it just like an accident? Was there training volume or something like that too much?
Yeah, it was I got invited to this 50-miler obstacle course race in Saudi Arabia. I was like, "Cool, great opportunity, massive cash prizes, like, this will be cool." Went out there, ran 50 miles, was, like, sore and tired, whatever. Immediately got on a plane, spent 21 hours traveling back home, and was, like, kind of uncomfortable. So there wasn't like an actual moment, but the following weekend, so like 3 days after I got home, I think, worked for 3 days, and then it was, the Washington, DC, major race, and I went into that honestly, like, I kinda repaired enough to where, like, I think I'm good, I think I'm okay, and I don't know if my meniscus was already torn or if running there, I think I was either 7th or 12th, which both of those, I don't know, it's a big difference, but at the same time, neither of them, but I didn't do well there, but I did finish, and I was like, "Cool." Well, then the next day, I raced doubles with my fiancé, Austin, and for sure, by the time I got to the lunges, I started doing lunges, and I was like, "I can't really lunge." But yeah, it wasn't even until, like, so I was very, like, stiff and sore, which is to be expected after a HYROX. It wasn't until probably a week after that when I was still very stiff and sore and could hardly move my knees. I was like, "I think there's something going on." Um, I was told it was, I mean, it was confirmed MRI, or yeah, MRI confirmed torn meniscus in the one knee, but I was also told it was like quad overuse injury. So, because both of my legs, I mean, I've heard also like when there's something happens with the knees, the quads will kind of like shut down to protect the knees. When something happens with the quads, the knees will shut down. So it's just a very like, just feel like my legs just said like hard stop, no, can't do it anymore. And somewhere between 50 miles and 2 HYROX races in a weekend, I lost my legs. So,
Okay. That'll
yeah,
do it.
there wasn't a specific moment, but a lot of things happened there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Mm.
Just switching to like mindset a little bit.
Mhm.
You talked about gratitude before, like for when you're racing, but is that what you think about when a race is getting tough in HYROX, for example? Does your mind go to a grateful place, or something else?
I do like to try to tell myself that. I would say actually, like, the more competitive I try to be, I feel a little bit less of that. Um, but I definitely like to take the time in the middle of any HYROX race to take a second to just kind of, like, look around and literally just kinda tell myself, like, "You're here? Like, what are you doing here? This is amazing." So, yeah, I would say as a general rule, that's kind of where my mind goes. I also definitely like when my entire body starts to hurt and I start to feel like tired and exhausted. Um, I mean, I would say I have I haven't really like worked hard at this, but I have been very intentional about being like very like kind and encouraging to myself. So I will definitely when I start to, like, think about, like, "This really sucks," I like to, like, I mean, to me, I always am like, "Well, you've done this much, you know, how many stations in, it's only this much left." I think I do a little bit of, like, bargaining with my body/mind of, like, "You're doing great, you're doing okay, you can do this." I, I guess, yeah, a race I did on Saturday, there was very much a, like, I did an obstacle course race last Saturday, and I definitely told myself several times there, like, I was running pretty close, 1st and 2nd were pretty close, and when she would do better than me on an obstacle, I told myself, "Well, I've got the running." And I was out running her, but then I'd also tell myself, like, "You're good at obstacles, you're good at running," like, so I think I do a lot of just kind of that, like, "You got this, you're okay." You got like, and a lot of that kinda comes from this saying that I found kind of early in my running life was, it's a little, like, mantra, which is, "Strong legs, unbeatable mind, no distance too far." And so I like to tell myself that, like, "You got strong legs, your mind is unbeatable, like, nobody can touch you mentally, and then no distance is too far, you got this." So, that's definitely something I come back to a lot, like, "Okay." Or I feel like I've kind of built that in my head of, like,
Yeah.
"I got this." So
You smile a lot as well. Is that like a deliberate thing? Like I know, like Kipchoge does it, for example, doesn't he?
yeah, yes and no. I read something very early when I first started running. Somebody was like, "When you smile, you actually, like, tell your like, it actually sends a message to your brain that you are enjoying this." And I was like, "Cool, I wanna try that." Also, if I'm not smiling, my face looks awful. And so, within the first, like, 2 or 3 races I was doing, like, obstacle course races at the time. First 2 or 3 of them, I was like, "What is going on with that girl? Like, she looks awful." So, it was a little bit of like a, what do you call it? Like a prideful, like, "I look terrible if I'm not smiling," and also very much a mental technique of, like, when you smile, it sends happy chemicals to your brain, to your body. So, a little bit of both. Like, I've got a pretty gnarly resting face, so I was like, "We need less of that and more smiling." And it does reflect more of, like, I'm having a good time, right? So, yeah. So it's a little bit of both.
It's for the body and the cameras.
Yes. But and I
um,
would say less the cameras, but, like, the memories. Like, I want my memories to be like, "Oh, that's me there," versus like, "Oh, who was that?" Like, I don't even so, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite sporting experience through your life?
Oh, I mean, my experience is obstacle course racing, ultras, and high rocks. For sure, I would say, I mean, 2022 was kinda like my favorite year of my life. HYROX World Champs was a very top, sporting experience, but then at the end of 2022, when I ran 100 miles at this 24-hour obstacle course race, that was another kind of, like, almost like sandwich on a year of, like, those are some really, really top experiences. So, yeah, I would say, I mean, in HYROX World Champs 2022, like, nothing really beats that. Um, but and with ultras, I have a lot of those moments. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, there's some questions that typically finish up on. That was one of them, to be fair. But is there anything like you believe about training or performance that a lot of people would disagree with? That you think?
Oh, um, I would say, I don't know if it's really things that people would disagree with, but I guess I would kinda say, like, don't take yourself so seriously, or don't take anything that seriously is kinda my Um, I actually this is another saying that I've kind of always carried with me is like, be serious about life, but don't take life too seriously. And I feel like with training and performance goals, it's really easy to like take it all so seriously. And like, while life is serious, we're here for a short amount of time. And like, who we like, life is important, life matters, and you should really take your life seriously and don't just like mess around. At the same time, like, we are all dying, like as we speak, like everybody dies. And like, taking life too seriously, um, yeah, like, I think everybody should just smile and laugh and enjoy themselves a little bit more,
Nice.
which isn't
Um,
really training related, but
no, that's good.
I
That's
don't
great.
know. Yeah.
Another question is Katie told me to ask you about Name
Uh-oh.
of the Wind. She said it's
Oh,
a favorite book and you were reluctant to read it, but now you're obsessed.
yeah. So I read a lot but I very much have like I think like an overachiever approach of like, if I'm gonna read, it better be useful. So I read a lot of like, neurology, science-based, like, I don't know, even like self-help. Like, I want this book to benefit me long term. Or even like biographies, autobiographies, like I wanna live in the real world. And Katie's a big reader, and Katie likes to read books for fun, which is something that for me, if I start a fun book, I will not put it down until it's done. Like, I will read every single chance I get, I will stay up late, like, so it's a little bit of like I have to save myself from myself. But Katie tried to introduce me to some other fiction books. I was like, "No, this isn't it." But Name of the Wind is the first fiction book that I've read in a very long time that I was like, "This is actually a fascinating book." Yeah, it's kind of the perfect in between, like, it feels real without, like, trying to, like, feel historical, but there's a lot of, like, fantasy stuff in it to where it's like, "Oh, this is actually really interesting." Yeah. Very well-written book, very interesting, and yeah, Katie won on that one. That is the one fiction book that I'm like, "I think people should read this." Like, it's fascinating. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Name of the Wind.
Okay. And is there a best piece of advice someone's given you or you've discovered while training for HYROX?
Best piece of advice while training for High Rocks. Um, I don't know if I have any one piece of advice that's, like, really changed a lot. I feel like I it has all been such a massive learning curve for me that I mean, I've heard so much advice that has been very, like, impactful on the way I race, the way I train, and I would say that's come from a very large collection of friends, socials, podcasts. Um, I guess one of the biggest things that I kind of pass on to people that are newer to High Rocks is which, I mean, and this is kind of a basic one, but I would say this is, like, one that really matters is, like, the race is 50% running. You have to run. Like, running is such a massive piece of it. And I will also say, like, I mean, World Champs 2022, obviously the sport is not where it is now, but I only won that because I could run. So, yeah, that's I mean, that's very basic, but, like, if you're trying to do HYROX, if you're trying to be good at HYROX, literally 50% of the race, more than 50% of the race is running. So, you should really run a lot.
And that race, if I remember rightly, you paced yourself very well as well. That's I think maybe a common mistake is people go out too hot, but you certainly didn't do that in that race. Like you came through at the end very much, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And that I
yeah,
mean, that just comes from running. Girl can
yeah,
run.
yeah. This has been fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
I apologize it's taken so long to have you on, but it's been brilliant. If people want to follow you, find out more about you, where should they go?
Just on Instagram, Kris Rugloski. That's me.
Okay,
I
awesome. And
share on there sometimes.
what are your HYROX race plans?
I would like to give another Elite 15 solo another go. I don't know. We'll see where that goes, and then I would also like to do Elite 15 doubles. I really like running mixed doubles, and so I'm still holding out hope they will do some kind of a mixed doubles thing because me and my fiancé Austin are a really great team, and I like racing with him more than anyone else. Might have something to do with, I kinda like him, but yeah, just a lot of HYROX. I love HYROX, and I love racing it. I love being involved in it, so, but I mean, I definitely want to, like, push to be the best, so the elite side of that is where my sights are set.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for this. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I loved it.